Om Hishikeshaya Namaha. Om Padmanabhaya Namaha. Om Damodaraya Namaha. Om Hariye Namaha. Om Shri Krishnaya Namaha. Om Aganyati Mirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Saksusun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutali Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Jataha Pachakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatan Vitam Taham Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parichana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivitam Shak He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Kupesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanustute Devi Panamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Kripasindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Om Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Bolo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Bhurbhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Vargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yunaha Prachodayat Om Bhurbhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Vargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yunaha Prachodayat Om Bhurbhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Vargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yunaha Prachodayat Om Apo Raso Amritam Brahma Bhurbhuvaha Swar Om Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Tasmat Sarvesu Kalesu Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha Mahi Arpita Mano Buddhir Mam Ivasya Samsayaha. Om Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam Granth Raj Ki Jai. So we're going to begin now the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is non-different than Lord Krishna. And we're not going to read every verse. There are 18,000 verses, so it would take us a long time to do that. That's why this is a lifetime endeavor. However, we will take certain portions that are crucial and very inspiring to hear and discuss them. But we'll begin with the first verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Everyone can repeat. Janmad asya yato nivayadi taratas charte swabhigya swarat tene brahma hridaya va adhikavaye muyanti yat sura tejo varimridam yata vinimayo yatra chisargur misha damna svena sada nirasta kahakam satyam param dhimahi. So this is a very, very important verse. The guru of our guru, or Srila Prabhupada's guru, is named Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He lectured 3 months on this one verse. That's how pregnant it is with knowledge. This first verse, it's full of deep realizations about Krishna. It took him 3 months to lecture, and he also mentioned it wasn't enough. just to show you how amazing the Srimad Bhagavatam is. This verse says, O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire, or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Now, we're not going to try and explain everything about this verse, but we will give some indications, because this is the most significant verse of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. And what's important here is, number one, it clearly says who the Supreme Personality of Godhead is. He is the son of Vasudeva, and so it's a short A, Vasudeva. But when you say Vasudeva, the long A, that means Krishna. Okay. So Om, O my Lord, Om is the impersonal representation, is an indirect representation of Krishna. Namo, I offer my obeisances or respectful homage. Bhagavate, unto the personality of Godhead, who is the son of Vasudeva. So there's no doubt who is the Supreme Personality of God. He starts off with that, because he wrote the Vedanta Sutra. He asked that question there, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now he answers it unequivocally, right from the invocation. And then he picks up on this second sutra of Vedanta Sutra, Janmadasya Yata. The Supreme Godhead is that, or that person from which everything emanates. Iswara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So he must be the cause of all causes. There's no cause above him or beyond him. And he's Sarva Karana Karana, the cause of all causes. And he is the origin of everything. Meaning all the incarnations, there's 6 types of incarnations or avatars. They're all coming originally from Krishna in this form of Sham Sundar. This is called Swayam Bhagavan. Swayam Bhagavan means this is the origin of everything, this form. Arjuna saw this in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita when he saw the universal form. Now, we have to understand, Bhagavad Gita is called the undergraduate study of spiritual knowledge. Srimad Bhagavatam is called the graduate study of Vedic knowledge. So everything in the Bhagavad Gita is expanded tremendously in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Everything's in the Bhagavad Gita, but Srimad Bhagavatam will expand it. And the postgraduate study, after you finish Bhagavad Gita, after you finish Srimad Bhagavatam, is called Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's for the elite persons who are on the fast track to go back to Godhead. They'll come to Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay, so therefore, Janmadasya Yata, which means that he is the origin of everything, and everything is coming from him. So Janmad Asya, or Janmadadi, creation, sustenance, and destruction, Asya, of the manifested universe, Yata, from whom all these things are coming. So, now in the verse, he says that I meditate upon Krishna, who is the supreme absolute truth. and the primeval cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. So there's two things. There's the material world, which is manifest and unmanifest, vyakta and avyakta. And there's a spiritual world, which is always manifest. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita, parastasmat tubhavo nyo, vyakto vyaktat sanatana, yasasarve subhutesu, nasatsu na vinasyati. So when it says when the material world is destroyed, that's the spiritual continues. It's never destroyed. And the material world is destroyed, but not the energy of the material world, just the forms that we see in the material world. Everything we see here is temporary. Nothing is permanent. However, the soul, meaning Krishna as Paramatma and each of us as a Jivatma, individual soul, that is permanent. So what is confusing about this world is we come into this world and we have an eternal soul, but it's covered by a temporary body that's always changing. And we make the mistake of identifying with that temporary body. This is called muyanti, illusion. And we identify with that body, and that body has different identities, such as it can be North Indian, South Indian, East Indian, West Indian. It can be North American, South American. It can be white, it can be black, it can be yellow, it can be green. See? And these are all temporary identifications with things that are not eternal. That's called muyanti. Nasato vidite bhavo, na bhavo vidite sata. Ubayor apidristo natas tvaneos tatvadarsibihi. The great sages have concluded that of the impermanent there is no duration, and of the permanent there is no cessation. This is Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter. And it's a fundamental verse. There's a difference between sat and asat. Asat is anything that's not permanent, and sat is whatever is permanent. So in spiritual life, we concern ourselves with sat. Just like we say that tamasima jyotirgama, asatoma sadgamaya. Yeah, so asatoma. We go from the asat to the sat. That's the whole purpose of spiritual life. So, but in material life, we concern ourselves only with the asat, with temporary things. And therefore we get extremely frustrated because all the temporary things deteriorate and become zero. Right? Just like I saw one of my brothers die, and then it was a Christian, so we put him in the funeral, in the casket, and then we lowered him into the ground, they covered it with dirt, then he's not there anymore. Right? And down there, he's just going to deteriorate and become dust. So, if you love the body, you become frustrated. If you love the soul, then you will not be frustrated. But most people are not taught to love the soul. They're taught simply to love the body. Therefore, they're grieving all the time. Okay, so here it says that the Lord is independent. He's indirectly and directly conscious of everything, and he's independent because there's no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji. Now this is very important. Brahma is the first living entity that appears in the material world. He does not have a mother and father. He's born from Krishna mentally. The Lord has so much power that whatever he thinks, that's what happens. He does not have to do things to make things happen. He simply wills it and it happens. Right? So he wanted to start off with Brahma. Why? Well, if you were going to start a company, would you start off with the bungie that cleans the toilet? Would he be the first person you hire? Who would be the first person that you hire? CEO, exactly. So Krishna starts off with the CEO. He doesn't start off with the amoeba, according to Darwin. You see how stupid these theories are. You know, they say, oh, it all started with a one cell. No, it didn't start with a one cell. It started with the most brilliant, intelligent, and highly evolved person called Brahmaji. You see? And Brahmaji he receives the Vedic knowledge, and then he receives all the ingredients for creation: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. You can expand those 8 into 24 fundamental ingredients of the material creation. And then he receives the mantras, he receives the knowledge how to put those things together and make things out of them. Just like you get a Lego set, and there's some instructions, how to put them together and make things. So Brahma gets that information. And then secondly, he also is empowered to populate the universe with living entities. This is what a CEO does, right? He buys some property and builds a factory or something, and brings in tooling, and he has an idea of what he wants to make, and then he hires the right people to make those things, and he has some capital to make it work for a certain amount of time, and all of a sudden he's got a big company, and he is in the background, and he has a CEO, and they're all running around trying to do things right, and he's there he's overseeing everything. So that's Krishna. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's overseeing everything, and he's got the Devatas, and he's got all the living entities. The living entities, us, we're people who revolted against Krishna in the spiritual world. Therefore, we can't stay there. Just like if someone commits criminal activity in Sammamish, they're put in jail. They're not allowed to live with normal people who follow the rules because they're dangerous people, right? But the whole idea of the jail is maybe they can become reformed and then come back out again. And if they're not reformed, they stay there. Just like they have sex offenders. Even if they do their time, now they came out with new laws, even if they do their time, let's say they get a 10-year sentence, and 10 years are over, they can still keep them if they consider them dangerous. They have a special island out on the Puget Sound where they hold those guys after their jail term because they're too dangerous to let out, and the judge didn't give them enough time, you see. So that's who we are. We are criminals. We revolted against Krishna. How do we know that? Because we're doing it every minute. We're passing our time watching Bollywood movies, and sometimes we go and eat cake with eggs in it, birthday cake with eggs in it, and sometimes we toast with champagne. And then I did a wedding for someone, and they were devotees, but at one point they had a toast for the bride and groom. They had wine, even though they're initiated devotees. But the force of custom and habit, family traditions, it's so powerful that they still sat down there. Everyone, of course, I didn't take any wine, but they all sat down there. They all made a toast, may they live long life, and they all drank the wine. But so we make mistakes all the time because we have our symptom of revolting against Krishna is we continually forget Krishna. Therefore, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, we're going to come to that verse in this beginning canto. There's 18 cantos. We're in the first canto now. Is to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Then you will never have any problems in this life. So, he chooses Brahma and empowers him with knowledge and blesses him so that Brahma can put into action the material creation. Although Brahma is a secondary creator. He doesn't create the earth, the water, the fire, the air. He doesn't know how to do that. But once that's there, he can put it together. It's just like a Lego set. You don't manufacture the Lego set. You buy it. But then you can put it together. So Krishna is the primary creator. And he also creates Brahma. How can do things happen by themselves? Of course, the idiot PhDs, they say everything happened by accident, But nothing happens by accident in this world. Microsoft didn't happen by accident. Netflix didn't happen by accident, and Amazon didn't happen by accident. The United States didn't happen by accident. Nothing happens by it. There's always intelligent people behind everything, right? And the universe didn't happen by accident either. The most intelligent is Krishna, and secondary intelligence is Brahma. So, Krishna gives this knowledge into the heart of Brahma. So why? Because Krishna is in the heart of everyone as Paramatma. Te samam evanakam paratam aham agyanamam tama nasyami atma bhavasto jnana dipena bhavasto. So we're going to see everything in Bhagavad Gita is expanded in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there are what you call the 4 nutshell verses of the Bhagavad Gita. The same thing is in the Bhagavatam. In other words, these 4 verses are the basis on which the entire Bhagavad Gita is written. And in the Bhagavatam, you also have 4 nutshell verses in the 2nd canto that encapsulate the whole truth of the Bhagavatam. And then the whole Bhagavatam is expanded on these 4 verses. Well, the verse I just quoted is one of those 4 nutshell verses in the Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter. Verses 8, 9, 10, and 11 are the 4 nutshell verses of Bhagavad Gita. And Te Samavanakam Paratam, Krishna says, to show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. He lights up the Jnana Dipa in our heart. So he did that for Brahma. He lit up the Jnana Dipa and eliminated any confusion he had. And therefore, at that point, Brahma wrote and sung the Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karana. That's why Brahma Samhita is so important. Right after Brahma became self-realized and understood who Krishna is, who he is, and what Krishna wants him to do, and he realized who the Supreme Personality of Godhead is, he wrote the who's who of the spiritual and material world. Just like, you get these books, who's who, the CEOs of the Fortune 500 companies in America, right? So you read, so-and-so, CEO of Amazon, so-and-so CEO of Boeing. Well, Brahma wrote the who's who of the spiritual and material worlds. It's called Brahma Samhita. That's why we recite it all the time. Because in a short number of 100 verses, everything is there. And the first verse is this Ishvara Parama Krishna, which says, Krishna is Ishvara Parama, the supreme controller, the supreme Lord, Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. And he has a body, but the body is not made of matter, it's made of Sat Chit Ananda, eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Our body is made of bones, stool, urine, pus, and so forth. His body is Sat Chit Ananda. Our body, our spiritual body is also Sat Chit Ananda, but it's covered over right now by the stool, the urine, and so forth. See? So, it takes a long time for us to realize the difference between the Sarira Linga and the Jiva Atma. Because we're so attached to the Sarira Linga, the material body made of stool and urine, that it's hard for us to identify ourselves with something else. But by regularly hearing Bhagavatam in the association of devotees, we can make that change. We can go back to our original consciousness, which is pure spiritual consciousness. So in this verse, and in the previous verse, he says, Te sam satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yena mam upayantite. He says, for those who are dedicated to me, constantly devoted to me by serving me with love, I give the knowledge, or I give the understanding by which they can come to me. And then he says, to show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So this is what he does with Brahma, the first living entity that appears in the material world. And by him, it says, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion. Well, this is the verse, 10th chapter, 2nd verse. See, everything that's in Bhagavad Gita, he begins with that, and then he expands it unbelievably. So the 2nd verse of the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita says that Name vidu suragana Prabhavan na maharshaya. Aham adir hi devanam maharshinam sasarvasaha. So he says, neither the devatas nor the great sages, meaning Marichi and all these other Vasistha, all these great sages in the universe, know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages. Well, that's what he's saying here, that even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire. Well, what is water seen in fire? When the sun is blazing in the Colorado or in in desert-like areas in Nevada, and you're driving on the highway, the asphalt highway, you see water in the distance on the highway, is it not? You see it here in Washington, too, in the summertime. But is there water on the asphalt highway? No, there's no water there. But see, it says here that bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire. So when that asphalt is really hot on a sunny day, in the distance you see water, but there's no water there. And then it says, or land seen on water. Yes, sometimes you're in the ocean and you're floating and you're thirsty and all of a sudden you think you see land, but there's no land there. So you see, these are illusory representations and we're always subject to them. Yes. Maybe and maybe not. Just like you might see water on the asphalt, but there's no water there. You might see water in the desert. The same thing happens on the desert sand. You see water in the distance. And if you walk toward that, you'll eventually die because it's always a little bit further until you're dead. So, you have to correct the eyes with the ears. Always remember that. Our eyes can bewilder us very easily. Just like a magician. They put the magician in a black box and his head is showing here and his feet are showing there. Then two ladies come with a big smile and they saw the box in half. And then they open the two sides and you see he sawed in half. Then they close it. They close the curtain. Then they open the curtain and he's up there, Haribo, jumping up and down. Now you saw him cut in half, didn't you? They cut him in half. They were smiling, and he was going, like that. They cut him in half, but yet he's not dead. And he's jumping up and down. So there are many illusory things in this world. Just like one day you think you have $10,000 in the bank. Next day you look at the bank statement, zero. You know, you're bewildered. What happened? Well, bank made a mistake. They debited your account and sent it to someone else by mistake. But you're bewildered and you're all up in anxiety. If it happens on a Friday night, you'll probably have a nervous breakdown by Monday morning. You know. So these things are happening all the time. We easily go into a state of illusion because our senses are imperfect. Okay, so then he says, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. Well, we see that at the moment of death, right before death, everyone's offering water to Pitaji. Somebody's massaging his feet. Someone is praying for him. Doctor is using a stethoscope to check his heart. And all of a sudden the doctor says he's finished. So he packs up his stethoscope. The person stops massaging his feet. No one gives him water anymore. Now they talk about taking his body to the funeral home and then getting it ready to be burned. All of a sudden we see that the body's not animate anymore. There's no more consciousness. And instead of massaging the feet, giving water, now we're going to throw it away. We're going to put it in a casket or we're going to burn it. That's the real nature of matter. Matter is actually dead. Just like this rug, this granite, this is dead. It only looks alive because there's temporarily a soul in it. As soon as the soul leaves, it goes back to its real nature, dead. Therefore, it's illusory. It looks alive. The whole material universe looks alive only because Krishna is present in every atom as Paramatma, and we are present in this body as Jivatma. But as soon as Jivatma leaves, or Paramatma leaves, it's dead. That's its real nature. We don't understand it. We get bewildered by it. So then, It says it appears factual, although it's unreal. Unreal meaning asat. It doesn't mean it has no existence. It means it's not eternal. Those forms, the microphone, the rug, the granite floor, the temple building, my body, your body, it's not going to last forever. Therefore, it's called asat. Only those things, as that verse in Bhagavad Gita says, let's look at that verse, 2nd chapter, and nasato vidyate bhavo, nabhavo vidyate sata, ubayor apidristo nandas, tvanayos tatvadasa bihi. 2nd chapter, verse number 16. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, meaning the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, meaning the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. So this is the difference between sat and asat. In spiritual life, we're concerned with sat. In material life, as I said, we're only concerned with asat. We forget the sat. Therefore, we get bewildered. Muyanti. We're always bewildered. We're always troubled by duality. This man is good, this man is bad. This was a good investment, that was a bad investment. Should I live in America? Should I move back to India? Should I marry this person? Should I marry that person? Should I invest my money here? Should I invest my money there? Should I buy this house? Should I buy that house? All the time we're overwhelmed by dualities because we're dealing with asat. We forgot the sat. You want to solve this problem of duality? Become interested in sat, what is eternal. Then you won't have this duality. And the duality bewilders people, and because of that, they get confused in life, and sometimes very frustrated, and then they do crazy things in a state of frustration. Then it says that only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. That this is Satyam Param Dhimahi. This is a Gayatri mantra. This is Gayatri also. Because when it says Satyam Param Dhimahi, Satyam means the truth, Param means the supreme, and Dhimahi means I meditate. And who is it referring to? It's referring to Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. I meditate on Krishna, who is Satyam Param Dhimahi, the Satyam Param, the supreme absolute truth. Okay? Now, this is important if we want to get out of the entanglement in the material world. And if we don't, then just ignore Bhagavatam. You don't need it. You can read Amar Chitrakar comics, or you can read the Newsweek, which is going out of print very soon, or you can read Time magazine. You can forget about this, because if you don't want to go back to Godhead, you just want to stay in the material world and suffer, you don't need it. But if you've decided that I don't want to suffer anymore, I want to solve this problem of life. What's the meaning of life? I remember when I was a kid, I was like 10 years old, and a question appeared in my mind. I don't know where it came from. I was thinking, every morning we wake up, and I brush my teeth, I put on my clothes, I go down and eat breakfast, then I go to school, then I come back for lunch, then I go back to school, then I come back for dinner, I do my homework, I watch a little television, then I go to sleep. The next day I do the same thing again. And I was wondering, what's the meaning of it? I was 10 years old. So I asked my dad, I said, Pop, I said, every morning I wake up, I do this, I do that, I come back, and I go to sleep. The next morning I do the same thing. What's the meaning of this? He slapped me really hard. He said, don't ask such a stupid question. I didn't get the answer to that question until I met my guru, Srila Prabhupada. He slapped me. He said, why are you asking such a stupid question? And he slapped me so I wouldn't ask again. Right? So, when that question appears in the mind, that means we're beginning to question, what is the purpose of life? It can happen at 10 years old. It can happen at 100 years old. Some people don't ask the question until they're about ready to die. But if it happens early on, and we meet a bona fide teacher, then we can get the answer directly. So, now the second verse of the Bhagavatam is also almost as important as the first verse. The second verse says, Dharma prochita kaita vocha paramo nirmatsaranam satam. Second verse of Bhagavatam says, completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Now remember this, because this is the whole theme of the Bhagavatam. If you want to know why Vyasadeva wrote the Bhagavatam, this is the crucial sentence of the whole Bhagavatam, revealing its purpose. It's to differentiate between reality and illusion for the welfare of all, not just for my welfare, for the welfare of everyone. So Bhagavatam is meant to elevate everyone. Elevate from what? Well, in the previous verse, it said that the Lord is forever free from the illusory representation of the material world. And it said that only because of him did the material universe temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. Now, this is the key. There are three modes of material nature. They're called gunas, triguna, sattva, rajas, and tamas. These three gunas control everyone in life. They control the way we see things, the way we hear things, the way we do things, the way we conceptualize things, the type of body we have, the way the body functions, eating, sleeping. Everything is controlled by these three gunas. And as long as we're under the influence of these three gunas, we cannot understand the truth. We can understand the truth a little bit in sattva guna. So the whole process of education, Vedic education, this is not only our temple, Vedic education in general, is to raise people gradually from tamaguna to rajaguna to sattva guna, because it's only in sattva guna that a person is capable of understanding something. No one can understand anything in rajaguna and tamaguna. It's impossible. Like tamaguna is a bar. There's a bar down here next to the Safeway. Go in there. Sit down in the bar. Well, I hope you don't do that, but you're going to sit down in the bar next to them and start telling them about Krishna. They'll say, get out of my face. I didn't come here to hear about your God. I came here to drink beer and watch the football game. So just get out of my face. They're not interested. Or go to someone who's having sex and ask them if they want to hear about Bhagavad Gita. They'll say, get out of here. What are you doing here? I'm going to call the police. People who are in Raja or Sattva or Tamaguna, they have no interest in spiritual life. Or if they have an interest, it's because by doing some puja, they'll make more money. Then they have an interest. But it's not for God, it's for themselves. So this puja for hire is a big business in India. It's not only India. The Buddhists do it, the Christians do it, and the Muslims do it too. It's called puja for hire. You go and get some blessing so that you get a brand new BMW. So people drive to the Buddhist temple with their BMWs because they want a second one. They got the first one already, now they want a second one. Or you go to Chilikut temple in Hyderabad for green card balaji. It's called green card balaji. If you walk around 11 times and make a wish, please give me a green card. If you get it, then you have to come back and walk around 108 times. Yeah. So that temple was not that popular, but this rumor got out that people who do this, they get the green card. So they call it green card balaji now. Huh? Visa balaji. Yeah, visa balaji. So, then the people in Raja and Tamaguna, they go to the temple or they go to the church or they go to the Buddhist monastery or the mosque also. They do it in every religion. There's puja for hire, puja for material benefit. Right? So that's for Rajasic and Tamasic people. But Sattvic people, they want to understand. What is the nature? Why am I suffering? That's the beginning of spiritual life. When a person asks this question, why am I suffering? If everyone thinks, I'm happy, they're not interested in spiritual life. But actually that happiness is illusory, because it comes and goes. It's chanchal. Okay? And when it goes, people are devastated. When it comes back, they forget everything. So therefore, Bhagavad Gita says, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, Nasochati Nakangsati, Samaksarve Subhutesu, Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param. One who is elevated to the level of Brahman, understanding I'm not this body, I'm not a combination of chemicals or material elements, I'm a pure soul, which is Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha, not just Sat Chit Ananda. Sat Chit Ananda is the impersonal understanding of the soul, and that also is illusory. Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha is the reality. Vigraha means the form, a specific form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Just like this form of Krishna is Sat Chit Ananda. Like I went to the Baha'i temple in Delhi, in Sant Nagar area, right? I was expecting to see something. I walk in after waiting in line. I walk in, there's nothing there. It's an empty hall. That's Sat Chit Ananda, but there's no Vigraha. You see? You come here, the center of everything, or you go to Tirupati, the center of everything is Balaji, right? You come here, the center of everything, Radha Krishna, and we also have Balaji, like that, or Sitaram, right? You walk into the Baha'i temple, it's nothingness. Now, I'm not criticizing a Baha'i temple, but I'm saying that is an illusory representation of the absolute truth. So Buddhism believes in nothingness, and Mayavad philosophy believes in the eternally emanating homogeneous light. Both of these are illusory concepts, because nothingness doesn't exist anywhere in the creation of Krishna. And to think that the ultimate state of spiritual realization is this homogeneous emanating light is an illusion, because one will fall down from that position. You cannot maintain it. Why? Because we're persons. We're not nothing, and we're not just a piece of light. We're eternally, and we have desires. Rather than trying to eliminate all desires, in the Krishna consciousness, we change the quality of desires from desiring material things, asat, to desiring spiritual things, sat, and pleasing Krishna. Then one leaves the place of illusion and comes to the place of spiritual reality. Okay, so in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 7th chapter, we have to understand this concept of the 3 modes of material nature, because that's crucial for Vedic education. Krishna says, Ye chaiva satvika bhavath, 7th chapter, 12th verse of Bhagavad Gita, Rajasas tamasas chaye, mata evetitan vidi, natvaham tesute mayi. Know, O Arjuna, that all states of being, be it they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am, in one sense, everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. Then he says, Tribir guna mayer bhavir, ebi sarvam idam jagat, mohita nabi janati mam evyam param avyayam. He says, deluded by the 3 modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. So, in order to understand something about God, one must come to the level of God, meaning become free of the influence of the 3 modes, even sattva guna. So in the Vaishnavas have this concept of Visuddha Sattva, or Suddha Sattva, transcendental goodness. That can only be achieved by constant engagement in devotion. Mam chayo vibicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunam samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Krishna can only be known by that person who is always engaged in his service and free of any influence of the 3 gunas. So if in the story of Balaji, if you know the story, in the beginning there's a group of sages and devas doing a yajna right before Kali Yuga began, and they're trying to figure out how's the best way to help the people in Kali Yuga, because in this age everything is bad. You have short duration of life. People are lazy. They have a short memory. They're misfortunate. They're always troubled by misfortunes. So it's difficult for them to, and the whole atmosphere is contaminated. You have Bollywood, you have Hollywood, you have this wood and that wood. Everything's contaminated. Therefore, even you go to Safeway, you buy yogurt. Yogurt has gelatin in it. You can't even buy a milk product that's pure anymore. So people get easily contaminated. Therefore, they were trying to figure out what's the best way to help these people. Well, Lord Brahma also was very concerned. He said, Kali Yuga is coming very shortly. People are going to suffer like anything. They're going to get slaughtered. How can we help them? So Narada Muni, Brahma's son, came and saw how concerned Brahma was. And he said, well, what do you want me to do, Pitaji? He said, we must bring Vishnu into this world. He can solve this problem. So Narada went to see the sages in Naimisharanya, and he said, look, you want to do something good for humanity. But first of all, we have to understand what is the best thing we can do. Let's discuss that. So they decided, yes, let's ask the Lord of the universe, Lord Vishnu, to appear. Well, some people said, we don't agree it's Lord Vishnu. Some of the devas and some of the sages said it's Lord Shiva. And then others said, no, it's Brahmaji. So they got into a little argument. It's like the Lok Sabha. They're always arguing, So Narada said, look, we can't do anything until we know, first of all, who is the Supreme God. Otherwise, we'll say, one person will say Shivaji, the other person will say Brahmaji, the other person will say Vishnu. And this is what happened to Atri Muni. Atri Muni and his wife Anasuya decided that they wanted God to appear as their child. But they didn't have a clear understanding of who God is. So 3 people appeared. Durvasa Muni and 2 others appeared. One was an incarnation, a partial incarnation of Shiva. Another was a partial incarnation of Vishnu. And the other was a partial incarnation of Brahma. And they got confused. You see. So Narada, knowing this, he didn't want the same thing to happen here, because this was crucial. Brahma said we have to get the Supreme Lord of the universe to appear. So he said, let us decide who is the Supreme Lord of the universe. So they decided, let's send Bhrigu Muni, because he was the top Brahmin in the universe. Let him go and visit Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu and decide who is the Supreme Lord. So Bhrigu Muni goes, and Bhrigu Muni is the son of Brahma, the brother of Lord Shiva, and the top Brahmin worshipper of Lord Vishnu. So because he knew all 3 of them, and he could go and see them. So he goes to Brahma Loka, and when his father sees him, he's very happy. And he said, oh, my dear son, I'm so happy to see you. Bhrigu Muni remains silent. He doesn't give his dandabat, and he remains silent. And this is very insulting, Your father said, hello, my son, how are you? Silence. He doesn't bow down, nothing. So Brahma became very angry. So what is this? This is nonsense. This is the way my son respects me? And he became very upset, but then he held himself back from doing anything rash or stupid, because he remembered he still has some good intelligence. He remembered it's his son. He's not going to kill his son. But he almost thought about doing that because he got so angry. Then Bhrigu Muni said he can't be God because he's influenced by Raja Guna. So he went to see Lord Shiva on Mount Kailash. When he went to see Lord Shiva said, oh, my brother Bhrigu, I'm so happy to see you. He walks toward him to hug him, and Bhrigu said, no, don't come so close. He said, why? He said, well, you have the ashes of dead people on your body, and you have this snake around your neck, and you have a garland of dead skulls. I don't want you to touch me. And Shiva said, what is this? You treat me like that? I'm your brother? So he gets his Trisul. He said, okay, I'll show you who's who. And he's going to kill him. He gets so angry he's going to kill him. And Parvati jumps at his feet and begs him, please, he's your brother. You can't kill your brother. Excuse him. He said, what do you mean excuse him? Look how he insulted me. He said, no, take it easy. You can't kill him. So she begged him, and finally he came to his senses. And Bhrigu Muni said, I'm not, he's influenced by tamas. He was going to kill him. And Brahma, at least with his intelligence, stopped himself. Lord Shiva was not going to stop. He was going to kill him if it wasn't for Parvati. That's why, gentlemen, it's very good to have a good wife. Before you do something stupid, she can save you, It's like one person was complaining to me about her husband. I said, what did he do? He said, he invested, half of what we have in this stupid stock, and it went down. We lost all our money. I told him not to do it. He wouldn't listen to me. So we should always listen to our wives. Anyway, then he goes to see Lord Vishnu. Now, this is how powerful it is. Normally, the devas can't go. See, Lord Vishnu in the material world, there are three Vishnus in the material world. There's Karanadakshayi Vishnu or Mahavishnu. There's Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, who enters into every universe and creates diversity in it. And there's Shirodakshayi Vishnu, who is Paramatma. So each of them have an abode. Of course, Karanadakshayi Vishnu's abode is on the Karana Sagar, which is between the material and spiritual world. But Garbhodakshayi Vishnu is in every universe, and there are billions of universes in the material world. There's not just one, right? And Shirodakshayi Vishnu, so Garbhodakshayi Vishnu is in the material universe. He has a special place where he is. And Shirodakshayi Vishnu, who's Paramatma, he has a place called Sweta Dvip, which is an island in an ocean of milk in this universe. The devas can only go to the shore of that ocean. They can't go to the island. And they just offer prayers. They chant the Purusha Shukta there and glorifying the Lord. And then they can hear him, but they can't see him. But Bhrigu, being the most exalted worshipper of Lord Vishnu, he was able to go to the island. And there he saw Lord Vishnu reclining on Sheshanaga, and Lakshmi Devi was massaging his feet. And when Lord Vishnu sees him, he said, "Oh, my dear Bhrigu, I'm very happy to see you." He said, "I'm happy to see you too." And he jumps up with his 2 feet and he pounces on the chest of Lord Vishnu so hard that the imprint of his feet are still there. It's called the Srivatsa. Right on the chest of Shirodakshayi Vishnu. Now this Shirodakshayi Vishnu is Balaji. He appeared in this world as Balaji. Anyway, and Lakshmi Devi appeared also in this world. So, as if I'm not mistaken, as Padmavati. Okay. So now, he's jumped on his feet. In other words, Brahma, he gave him a mental insult. Shiva, he gave a verbal insult. But the worst insult he kept for Lord Vishnu. It was a physical insult. He struck, he jumps on his chest. He puts his feet on the Lord. That's, you're not even allowed to put your feet on an ordinary person according to Vedic culture, right? He puts his feet on the Lord and pounced on him and leaves the imprint. Lakshmi Devi was extremely upset, but she didn't say anything at that moment. The Lord looks up and smiles and said, "Oh, Bhrigu," he said, "my dear Brahmin," he said, I love Brahmins. Om Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. He said, Brahmins and cows, I'm the well-wisher. And all living entities, but especially Brahmins. He said, but I want to apologize to you. I think because of the hardness of my chest, I hurt your delicate lotus feet. Please excuse me. When the Lord says that to Bhrigu Muni, he's overwhelmed. He gets bewildered by it. He can't imagine, after having seen what Brahma almost did, and what Shiva was definitely going to do. Here, the Lord is apologizing to him for the most egregious offense. Physical offense is the worst offense. He jumps off immediately and bows down and begs for forgiveness. And the Lord said, why are you asking for forgiveness. I'm the one who committed the offense. He said, anyway, Brahmins should never be punished. Yeah, children younger than 14 years old and Brahmins who are genuine Brahmins, they should never be given punishment. Children can be corrected, but they should not be severely punished. Even in America, even if a child commits murder, the punishment is very light, because they understand that the child doesn't know what they're doing. It's an accident most of the time. If it's premeditated, they might give more punishment. But if it was an accident, it was because of some ignorance, they will not punish the child severely. Like, put the child in prison for the rest of their life. They won't do that. I mean, it's a Vedic principle. Okay, so now we see here, Bhrigu Muni goes back to the sages and the devas in Naimisharanya. He said, look, the answer to the question, Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he's not affected neither by tamas, like Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva is only slightly affected by tamas. No, he's not like us. Only very because he's in control of the tamaguna, and sometimes he gets a little affected by it. And Brahma is affected somewhat by rajas. Also, Brahma is only slightly affected by rajas, not like us. And he said, but Lord Vishnu, he's not affected neither by sattva, neither by rajas, neither by tamas. Therefore, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because it corresponds to what Krishna says here. Yechaiva sattvika bhava rajasas tamachas chaye matayveti tanvidi natvaham tesute mahi. Know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. In other words, he's the origin of the three gunas. I am, in one sense, everything, but I am independent. In other words, the Lord is, although he's present everywhere in the universe by his expansions of the Vishnu Murtis, he is not, he's still independent. He's still in Goloka, playing his flute, dancing with the gopis, eating ladus, while Mahavishnu is here, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Shirodakshaya Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma, they're all here, they're all working. He has nothing to do except enjoy. So he's independent, although he has expanded himself in this mysterious way into these avatars. Right? Then he says, I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. In other words, he's not affected by him, although Brahma is, Shiva is, and all of us are. So to understand Krishna, the reason I'm going through this explanation, to understand Krishna, we must rise above the influence of the three modes of material nature. Otherwise, we will not understand him clearly. There were once two fish looking at the moon, and one fish said to the other one, hey, what's that thing up there? The other fish said, it's a fish. He said, a fish? But how come it's shiny? Because it's a shiny fish. He said, oh, now I understand. See, these are kind of explanations we have in this world, right? We don't understand anything about it, but we project ourselves. It's called Atmavan Manyate Jagat. This is a Vedic principle. One projects his imperfect mental conceptions on whatever he sees, and sees it in terms of his own limitations. So instead of seeing the moon as the moon, they see it as a fish, but the only differentiation is they're dull fish and that's a shiny fish. That's it. Just like there was once a thief, and they asked the thief, have you ever met an honest person? He said, no. Really? There's no honest people? No, they're all thieves. Well, of course, he's a thief. He sees everyone else as a thief. It's just like once Duryodhana was asked to find a good person, and Yudhisthira was asked to find a bad person in the world. So they went out into the world, and then when they came back, they asked Duryodhana, did you meet any good people? He said, no. He said, why? So everyone I saw, some people had some good, but I saw bad in them also. So then they asked Yudhisthira, did you find a bad person? He said, no. He said, why not? He said, everyone I saw, some people had a little bad, but I saw some good in them also. So therefore, is the cup half full or is it half empty? If you're a negative person, it's half empty. If you're a positive person, it's half full. See? So Yudhisthira only saw some good in everyone. So that's the same thing with Prabhupada. When he came to America, he saw everyone is addicted to drinking, smoking, eating meat, doing nonsense, talking nonsense. But he didn't say, oh, these Americans, they're finished. We'll wait till the next life. If they're lucky, they'll take birth in India as a Hindu. Then we'll preach to them. No, he didn't say that. Why? Because he knows Nitya Siddha Krishna Bhakti Sadhya Kabunai Shavanadi Sudha Chitta Karaya Udai. That Nitya Siddha Krishna Bhakti, the eternal perfection that one can achieve is Bhakti. Krishna Bhakti. That's the, and that corresponds to this verse, 14th chapter, 26th verse, which says, Mam chayo vibicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunam samatit yaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature, the trigunas, tamas, sattvas, and rajas, and thus comes to the level of Brahman, spiritual level. Then they can understand Bhagavad Gita. And this is basically what Vyasadeva is saying in this second verse. He's saying, Dharma kaitava, Dharma projita kaitavotra parama nirmatsaranam satam. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries, adhyatmika, adhibodhika, adhidevika. Miseries caused by this body, miseries caused by other bodies, and miseries caused by natural cataclysmic events. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. In other words, you don't have to read anything else. You don't have to read Deepak Chopra. You don't have to read this Mahant or that Mahant. You just read Bhagavatam. Because anything they say, they've extracted it from Bhagavatam and they put their own spin on it. So why should you read the imitation when you can read the real thing? Okay. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within the heart. Okay, so we covered two verses. Now we're going to go through this first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we're going to pick out some interesting things. But this is the theme, kicking out all religions that are materially motivated, and all religious activities that are materially motivated, and being able to distinguish reality from illusion for the welfare of all, not just for the welfare of one segment of society. So, the reason people are suffering in this world is because they forgot Krishna. And the way they're going to end all their suffering is by remembering Krishna. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvata tyakvadeham punarjanma naiti mameti sarjana. Krishna says in 4th chapter, 9th verse, that Janma karma chame divyam, anyone who knows the mysterious nature of my janma, my appearance, and karma, my activities, does not upon approaching death take birth again, but comes back to me. So just understanding Krishna, this knowledge is so powerful that it liberates a person before death, right now, and at the moment of death, they do not take birth again in the material world, they go back to God. That's how powerful this knowledge is. So, now we're going to fast forward to the 7th chapter, which is a very interesting chapter. It explains how Arjuna caught Asvatthama after he killed the 5 sons of the Pandavas, and of course Draupadi. And he was caught by Arjuna. Arjuna comes back, brings him in front of Krishna, and he says, what should I do? Krishna says, kill him. Then he double checks with his wife Draupadi. Draupadi says, don't kill him. Now it's a dilemma. God is saying kill him. His wife is saying don't kill him. What do we do? Well, if you listen only to God, you make an enemy of your wife. If you listen only to your wife, you'll miss the opportunity of being liberated in this lifetime. So Arjuna was confused. He didn't know what to do. So, sisyasteham sadimam tvam prapanam. Arjuna, already in the Bhagavad Gita in the 2nd chapter, he said, look, Krishna, I'm confused. I don't know whether I should fight or not. I have a lot of arguments why I shouldn't fight. And he gave them. And they were all morally, most of them were morally correct, but they were prompted by his material attachments. So this is another interesting thing. A person can speak based on Shastra, but to support his material attachments, rather than to understand the real meaning of Shastra, which is to please Krishna. This is the whole drama of the Bhagavad Gita. In the beginning, Arjuna says no to Krishna. And he uses Vedic knowledge to support what he's saying. There's parts of the Vedas that concern morality and other things. And everything he says makes sense. But it's prompted by material desire. That's why Mark Twain said even the devil can quote scripture. And we see it in the Ramayana. Ravana is the son of Vishrava, a Paka Brahmana. He was trained as a Brahmana. He was trained in the Vedic knowledge. But he was attracted to those parts of the Vedas that promised material success. So he only did those pujas in the Vedas, and he knew the mantras. He was trained, but only for material success. And he got so arrogant by his success. You know, when someone is very successful materially, they become arrogant usually. He started doing pujas to kill Ram. Does that make sense? The Vedas are all about pleasing. Vedaischa sarver aham eva vedya, Vedanta krit vedavit eva chaham. Krishna says the purpose of the Vedas, Vedaischa sarver aham eva vedya, is to understand me. Because I'm the knower of the Vedas, I'm the compiler of the Vedas. And here's Ravana doing a puja to kill Ram. And Indra is doing puja to kill Ram. So this is what happens when someone doesn't accept a bona fide guru. They just go to the Vedas and pick something out. Hitler did the same thing. You know, you see the emblem of Nazis. It's the Vedic symbol, the swastika, right? They made it into a hated symbol because Hitler didn't accept a guru. Like Ravana. Ravana didn't really accept a guru. His guru was his own kama and moha and lobha and krodha. That was his guru. He had 4 or 5 gurus. You know, mada, madness, matsarya, envy. That was he had 5 gurus, right? But Arjuna was arguing based on Vedic knowledge why he should not follow Krishna's order, and Krishna's directly giving him an order. But then Arjuna came to the conclusion. He says, Karpanya dosopahata swabhava prichchami tvam dharma samudacheta yatsheyakshan nishitam bruhitan me sisyasteham sadimam tvam prapanam. He said, now I'm confused about my duty in life and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you, O Krishna, to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Now we do this all the time. We eat meat, we drink things, we eat garbage, we talk garbage, we listen to garbage, we watch garbage, and then we get diabetes. Or we get cardiac problems. Or we have cardiac arrhythmias. Or we need kidney dialysis. Or we have high blood pressure, BP, Then we go to the doctor. I say, doctor, I'm confused. I was living happily, and now I have this terrible sickness. I have pain in my back, pain in my head, this thing, that thing. I don't know what to do. You tell me what to do. He said, okay, we're going to give you an injection with a mercury extract. Right? Then his whole body breaks out with rashes, and he's itching, and he's half dead. They take him to the ER. They said, what happened? He said, I don't know. I went to the doctor, and he gave me this injection, and I've broken out. So, he might have been overdosed, or we'll give you another injection of something. They give him another injection of something else. It gets rid of the first thing, but it gives another problem. Well, that's what happens when you go to the people who are in the ustadi business. There's a difference between those who do ustadi business and those who are actually ustad. Right? You don't want the ustadi business people because they'll give you one injection, other injection, this thing, that thing. You end up worse than before. Just like my father, he walked to the hospital to get radiation therapy for his cancer. When it was over, we had to carry him back. And he was finished. They burned him completely. We had to carry him. The man was strong enough to walk to the hospital. He would have done better staying at home and changing his diet and stop smoking and stop drinking. He might have gotten better. He had no chance after he got out of the hospital. 9 months he suffered. Every night he would scream. I was a little kid. I would hear my dad screaming, give me poison. I want to end this. He would scream. You know, that's what happens when you go to people who are doing ustadi business. So Arjuna is smart enough to go to Krishna, who is Param Ustad. And he said, I'm confused. I don't know what to do. Please help me. So this is what happens when so Arjuna is confused now. Draupadi says, don't kill him. Krishna says, kill him. And it's Krishna. So he says, Krishna, I'm confused, but I'm going to ask you what I should do. So Krishna says, well, you have to kill him because I told you to kill him. But you have to kill him in such a way that you don't kill him because your wife said don't kill him. He said, okay, now I'm more confused. He said, now I'm more confused by your answer. What does that mean? He said, well, see, we'll go back to the Bhagavad Gita because all in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains to Arjuna in the 2nd chapter that akirtim chapi bhutani katayisyani te vyayam sambhavitasya chakritir maranad atirichyate. He says, people will always speak of your infamy. He's telling Arjuna, if you don't fight, if you just walk away, which is what Arjuna wanted to do. He said, I'll just walk away and I'll sit somewhere in Badarik Ashram, somewhere like that. I'll eat a little bit of chaval and I'll be a yogi. Krishna said, you cannot do this. If you walk away, he said, you'll live in infamy. Everyone will criticize you. For a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. For a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. So Arjuna got the hint. So he takes Aswatthama and he scalps him. Woo, 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 like the American Indians, right? They scalp people, right? But he doesn't kill him. He cuts off the edge of his skull without killing him. Therefore, his hair will never grow back again. And he banishes him from Vedic society. And he also curses him not to die, but to roam the earth in a state of disgrace. Because anyone in Vedic culture, you know, anyone is scalped like that, everyone knows they did something really bad and they've been cursed. So Aswatthama is still alive today. He's walking around in a state of dishonor. So he killed him without killing him. He satisfied Draupadi, he satisfied Krishna. And he got the hint from Krishna, who was his guru. This is why it's very important to have a bona fide guru in life. And it's not just one guru, it's gurus. Just like Ramanujacharya, he had 5 gurus. He had an initiating guru, Yamunacharya, and he had Shiksha Gurus, and they all instructed him, and he always listened to all of them, and they never contradicted each other. They were all on the same page. Okay, so now in this 5th chapter, there's a very interesting thing. Prabhupada says, a cruel and wretched person who maintains his existence at the cost of others' lives deserves to be killed for his own well-being. Otherwise, he will go down by his own actions. So now this is a good argument for a capital punishment. Even in the Vedic time, there's capital punishment. Now today they want to eliminate all capital punishment. Someone kills 40 people, they put them in jail for the rest of their life, where they have television, internet, a gym, their own special diet, and conjugal visits, and this thing and that. It's like going on a resort. I mean, if they offer me all that, I might want to go to jail, right? It's not suffering. It's, you're being provided for. You don't have to work. You just sit there all day long playing on the computer or reading books or working out in the gym, right? And you're getting 3 square meals a day. And you and I are paying for it, right? So what they do in Chile under Pinochet, whenever they caught someone, they would put him in an airplane, they'd fly over the Atlantic, they'd open the door and say goodbye, and they'd throw him out the door. Of course, that should not be done either. But Krishna is saying here, a life for a life is just punishment for a person who cruelly and shamelessly lives at the cost of another's life. Jai Shri Radha Nil Madhava Ki Jai. Political morality is to punish a person by a death sentence in order to save a cruel person from going to hell. If the person gets the punishment in this life, it lessens the reaction he'll get after he dies. But if he doesn't get the reaction in this life, then it's a devastating reaction when he dies. Because today people don't accept that there's an eternal soul. They think, he's just living once. It'd be really a shame to kill this guy who murdered 45 people. We should keep him in jail and feed him and take care of him. He can have a lawyer. He can sue us. The people in jail, sometimes they sue the warden or they sue the state. Right? Now, I'm not saying everyone is guilty. Sometimes they put innocent people in jail because our legal system is imperfect. Right? That a murderer is condemned to death sentence by the state is good for the culprit because in his next life he will not have to suffer for his act of murder. Such a death sentence for the murderer is the lowest possible punishment offered to him, and it is said in the Smriti Shastras that men who are punished by the king on the principle of a life for a life are purified of all their sins. So much so that they may be eligible for being promoted to the planets of heaven if they get the punishment in this life. According to Manu, the great author of civic codes and religious principles, even the killer of an animal is to be considered a murderer. This is serious stuff. I mean, how many turkeys do they eat at Thanksgiving? How many chickens do they eat? How many cows do they eat? 60 to 80 million cows a year in America alone. Over 1 billion chickens. I don't know how many fish. It must be, over like 500 million fish. How many pigs? How many sheep? How many rabbits? They eat rabbits in France. They eat horses in France. In China, I had a friend of mine, a Chinese guy, Mr. Lee. One day I said, Mr. Lee, I said, what do you eat? He said, Chinese, Chinese eat anything a moo. He said, Chinese eat anything that moves. He had that Chinese, anything a moo. So they eat lizards, they eat cockroaches, they eat anything. You go to a Chinese market, there's dead lizards and snakes and everything, and people are buying them. Give me 1 pound. Even in America, there's a store that sells exotic animals in Florida. I won't tell you where it is. Once a year, they have a cockroach eating festival. Mahotsav. Cockroach festival. The one that eats the most, and the cockroaches are alive, the one that eats the most cockroaches wins. So this year, this one man won the contest. He beat everybody. And in Florida they're like the same cockroaches in India. The big ones like that, that fly around, they have those in Florida also. So he won it. 2 hours later, he was dead. Did you read that? Yeah. 2 hours later, he was dead. And what do you expect? He's eating cockroaches. Cockroaches are a dirty insect. Right? But people are crazy. Just to win a prize, he got a reptile. He got some lizard or some snake. He could choose whichever one he wanted in the shop. They sell snakes, lizards, bugs, spiders, things like that. Exotic animal shop. This is called tamasik, tamaguna. Okay? So then it says here, according to Manu, the great author of the civic codes and religious principles, even the killer of an animal is to be considered a murderer because animal food is never meant for the civilized man, whose prime duty is to prepare himself for going back to Godhead. Manu says that in the act of killing an animal, there is a regular conspiracy by the party of sinners, and all of them are liable to be punished as murderers, exactly like a party of conspirators who kill a human being combinedly. He who gives permission, he who kills the animal, he who sells the slaughtered animal, he who cooks the animal, he who administers distribution of the foodstuff, and at last, he who eats such cooked animal food are all murderers, and all of them are liable to be punished by the laws of nature. This is Manu Samhita. Manu Samhita is the book of civil law of Vedic society, civil and penal law of Vedic society. And he is very categorical about meat eating. It's a horrible enterprise, and everyone involved in it will be punished by the laws of karma. Now you know why the United States is always in a state of war. Now you know why there's so much violence in the United States. Now you know why there's so much trouble in the best country of the world. Because they have a gigantic killing enterprise in this country. And people are eating it like anything, thinking it's good protein. It's protein death. That's what it is. Yeah. Okay, so then, see, without Bhagavatam, Bhagavatam does two things. It explains avidya, ignorance, and it explains vidya, real knowledge. So you have to learn both of them simultaneously. Otherwise, you'll be so innocent. Oh, everything is wonderful in this world. Oh, this guy's a murderer. Let's bring him to the temple. No, we don't want murderers and dacoits and people like that coming to the temple. Somebody has to have common sense to weed them out, to recognize them right away. Otherwise, you expose innocent, good people to bad people. Just like one woman was telling me, when I got married, oh, I was so happy. I thought my husband is Ram. Then after 3 months, I realized, he's not Ram, he's Ravana. Well, you don't want to make mistakes like that in life. By Bhagavatam, you can recognize who's good and who's bad. You can recognize if you're good or bad. Just like I was a meat eater. My family had a meat business. If you told me when I was 16, don't eat meat, I would have laughed for a half an hour. I would have laughed. I said, are you crazy? I eat meat 4 or 5 times a day. If there's no meat on the table, I'm hungry. But later on, when I met devotees and I read Bhagavad Gita, I came to my senses. I said, my God, why would I want to eat a dead body? That's a dead body. If I have to kill the animal myself to eat it, I would never do it. By the way, you got to catch the animal first. They run away from you, or they turn around and they're going to fight, to the death. They don't want to die. I mean, how about if some big guy comes after you with a knife to kill you? Would you say, oh, here, do it right here. It's easier here. It's my jugular vein. No. You would say, no way. You're not going to kill me. I'll try and kill you then. You would run away. You would fight. You would do it. That's what the animal does too. They don't go happily to the slaughterhouse. And then you're going to eat the flesh of that dead animal that died cursing you? What would you do if someone is killing you? Would you say, oh, may you live forever happily? No, you would say, may you die in the same way you're killing me. Just like Dasarat, he accidentally killed a Brahmin boy. Because he could shoot the arrow by hearing noise. He didn't have to see the target. So he was hunting, and he thought it was a deer. He heard the noise. He shoots, and he comes to see what it is. It's a Brahmin boy. And the Brahmin boy says, why did you do this to me? So I never did anything to you. And my mother and father depend on me. They're blind, and they're in the forest. I provide them. I bring them fruits and vegetables and things. What's going to happen? And then he dies. Dasarat realizes what a terrible thing he did. So he goes to find the mother and father, and he humbly explains to them that he killed their son. And they're devastated. They say, well, then we can't live. You killed our son. We were living here only because, we're blind, we're old. So they decide to die on the spot. But they curse Dasarat that he will also die of heartbreak because his son will be sent away. His son, something will happen to his son, and he'll die of heartbreak in the same way they're dying. You say. So this is very, very significant, that whenever we live at the expense of other living entities. Jivasya jivanam. Jivasya jivo jivanam. One living entity lives at the expense of another living entity. So that means we breathe, we're already killing hundreds of thousands of living entities in the atmosphere. When we walk down the street, we're already killing things, microbes, bugs. When we drive our car, we're killing hundreds, thousands of living entities. The laws of nature are blind. Like if you put 50 cents in a Coke machine and push the button and no Coke comes out, then you bang on the machine, give me my Coke, give me my Coke. Nothing comes out. Then you say, Prabhuji, please, either give me back my 50 cents or give me a Coke. Now, can the Coca-Cola machine give kripa? You pray to the Coca-Cola, please, please, give it back to me. The Coke machine can't give kripa, and the laws of material nature cannot give kripa. They're blind. If a little 4-year-old child puts his hand in the fire by accident, the laws of nature say, oh, let's excuse this little boy. He doesn't deserve to get his hand burned. No, his hand is burned because the laws of nature are blind, and there's no kripa involved. You need a person to dispense kripa. And the ultimate person is Krishna. Just like we say, Bamsi Bihari Kripa Karo, Bhaja Kripa Karo, Bhagavan Kripa Karo. So Kripa comes from Bhagavan. It doesn't come from Coca-Cola machines. It doesn't come from the laws of material nature. You see? So, therefore, material nature is cruel. Just like the IRS is cruel. If you purposely make a mistake to not pay as many taxes and they catch you, they triple the amount of penalty. Triple it. And if you don't pay the penalty in time, you pay triple the amount of interest, compounded for every day you don't pay. Don't ever get in trouble with the IRS, because they'll take everything away from you. They have guns. You don't. And their guns are bigger than your guns if you have guns. So you will never win. So, okay, so here it says, it is good for the animal, the procedure under which animal sacrifice is allowed in the scriptures is good both for the animal sacrifice and for the animal eater. So the Vedas give a possibility, a little window of opportunity to eat meat in Kali Yuga. but never a cow. You can sacrifice once a month a black sheep. And you see them walking all over Bengal. You go to Bengal, you see these little black sheep walking all over the place. You have to go to the temple of Kali only once a month on the full moon night. And there's a special mantra you say, Mam Satati, which means, I am killing you now, my dear brother, and in the next life, you will kill me in the same way I'm killing you. And then the priest nods his head and you cut its head off. Now you can take it home and eat it for 1 month. You're not allowed to kill two. You're not allowed to go to the Safeway and buy meat. That's completely not allowed. But you can sacrifice one black goat a month on the full moon night, but you have to say the mantra, and the priest, if he's a good priest, he'll explain what the mantra means. So eventually, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, you say, well, wait a minute. That means in my next life, the same thing is going to happen to me. As many times I do it to these different sheep. No, I'm not going to do it anymore. It's crazy. I'm ruining my life by doing this. So, through Vedic sacrifices, it's possible to be educated, even though the goal of the sacrifice might be horrible. But there's always education. But unfortunately, the Brahmins today are more interested in getting the dan for the sacrifice than in educating people. So no one's getting properly educated. So therefore, they're just doing a Vedic sacrifice and eating meat. Or they say, listen, the Brahmin costs 100 rupees, but if I go to the Muslim shop down the corner, it only costs 30 rupees. Therefore, I'll just stop going to the priest. I'll just go to the Muslim shop and buy the same meat, because it's the same thing, right? Lamb this one, lamb that one. So you see, it's all market-oriented nowadays, unfortunately. Okay, so this is just one thing we read. Now I'll just read one more thing, and we'll stop and we'll continue tomorrow. Now in the 8th chapter are the prayers of Kunti Devi. Now these are the most sublime prayers. All the greatest acharyas, Ramanujacharya and others, have said this is the one part of the Bhagavatam we love the most. We love it all, but this part here is very nectarian, because Kunti's prayers are in simple Sanskrit, and they're very profound. And she's a woman, but she's one of the greatest women in the entire history of the world. And all the great acharyas who are men, including the Alvars and others, they love Kunti Devi's prayers, because she touched the heart of the truth. So here, Kunti prays, Manye tvam kalami sanam anadi nidanam vibhum samam charatam sarvatra bhutanam yanmita kali. My Lord, she's speaking to Krishna, I consider your lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller without beginning and end, the all-pervasive one. In distributing your mercy, you are equal to everyone. The dimensions between living beings are due to social intercourse. In other words, the dissensions between living beings are due to social intercourse. Now, this is extremely profound, and we'll read the purport of this. Every one of her prayers are extremely profound, although it's simple Sanskrit. Kunti Devi knew that Krishna was neither her nephew nor an ordinary family member of her paternal house. She knew perfectly well that Krishna is the primeval Lord who lives in everyone's heart as the Supersoul, Paramatma. Another name of the Paramatma feature of the Lord is Kala, or eternal time. Eternal time is the witness of all our actions, good and bad, and thus resultant reactions are destined by Him. It is no use saying that we do not know why and for what we are suffering. We may forget the misdeed for which we may suffer at this present moment, but we must remember that Paramatma is our constant companion, and therefore He knows everything, past, present, and future. So this is our problem. When we're born, we completely forget our previous births and activities. We don't know what we did. But in this life, some people are very fortunate, some people are very misfortunate. But everyone is mixed. There's fortune and misfortune. We should understand that these things are the reactions to our past deeds, either good or bad deeds. It's not happening by accident. It's not because we're clever that we made money on the stock market. That we were destined to get it because of our punya in the previous life, and we're destined to get the heart attack and the kidney dialysis because of our sinful activities. And because the Paramatma feature of Lord Krishna destines all actions and reactions, he is the supreme controller also. Without his sanction or permission, not a blade of grass can move. The living beings are given as much freedom as they deserve, and misuse of that freedom is the cause of suffering. So we all have limited free will. What is our limited free will? Either we choose to follow Krishna's instructions, or we choose not to follow them. Krishna knows what will happen to us either way, but that choice is up to us, and he doesn't interfere with it. He does everything he can to educate us to make the right choice, but if we insist on making the wrong choice, he lets it happen. He doesn't interfere with our limited free will. But in both cases, he knows what's going to happen to us. Just like the state of Washington knows exactly what's going to happen to you if you follow the rules of driving or if you break them. If you follow them, you'll be able to reach your destination. If you break them, they have a whole list of things that will happen to you according to the severity of your traffic violation. They don't interfere with your free will, but they know what's going to happen to you either way. That's the same thing with Krishna. It's not that because he knows everything, you don't have free will. No. The state of Washington knows everything, but they don't interfere with your free will of following the rules or breaking them. But either way, they know what's going to happen to you. Others who misuse freedom. Oh no, he says, the living entities are giving as much freedom as they deserve, and misuse of that freedom is the cause of misery, of suffering. The devotees of the Lord do not misuse their freedom, and therefore they are good sons of the Lord. Others who misuse freedom are put into miseries destined by eternal kala, or time. The kala, or time, offers the conditioned souls both happiness and miseries. It is all predestined by eternal time. As we have miseries uncalled for, so we may have happiness also without being asked for they are all predestined by Kala. And I'll give you a real example. When I was living in France, I had a business. One day I woke up with an idea. I said, I want to register a name. I was thinking of making a new line of products. So I was trying to find a name. So I was talking with a friend of mine, and I said, let's call it Caroline. He said, Caroline. He said, why that name? I said, it's one of the daughters of Princess Grace and King Rainier of Monaco. He said, yeah, Caroline, yeah. How about the other one? I said, you mean Stephanie? He said, yeah. Let me see, Stephanie. He said, let me think about that. So I thought about it a day or two. Then I went to the trademark registration office, and I registered Stephanie. Right. 2 months later, I get a letter from Princess Grace's lawyer. Princess Grace is Princess of Monaco. Right? The lawyer says, we did a search and we see that you just registered the name Stephanie. We're willing to buy it from you. How much do you want? Wow. I was like amazed. So I was thinking, well, it only cost me like a few $100. Maybe I'll ask him for $1,000. But then I said, wait a minute. This guy's the king of Monaco. And I was trying to think, why did they want the name? Maybe they're going to do what I was going to do, come out with a trademark. So I thought about it, and I said, I shouldn't be too greedy. I won't ask for $1 million. So I asked for $100,000. They immediately agreed and sent me a check. Now, how did that happen? See, I didn't know. I just picked a name. It's all because of good karma. Now, the opposite can happen also, right? Because we don't know. We don't know what we did in our previous life. Now, that never happened again in my life, right? But you can see how these things happen. They're predestined. You can be the smartest person in the world. How are you going to pick one name out of hundreds and millions? Of course, there are people that specialize in this. They'll trademark any name. They'll trademark 200,000 names, hoping that one of them will pay off. There are people that specialize in that business, right? I didn't know. I just picked one name out of the blue, right? It just appealed to me. Why was I attracted to that name? It's all because of previous karma. You see? And the same thing, we make mistakes also, and we suffer for them because we're controlled by our previous karma. We think we're independent. Nobody is independent. And we'll talk about that some more. No one is therefore either an enemy or friend of the Lord. Everyone is suffering and enjoying the results of his own destiny. This destiny is made by the living beings in course of social intercourse. Everyone here wants to lord it over material nature, and thus everyone creates his own destiny under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. He is all-pervading, and therefore he can see everyone's activities, and because the Lord has no beginning or end, he is known also as the eternal time, Kala. Okay, now we're going to stop here. There's plenty of amazing realizations that comes out of the Bhagavatam. We're only beginning. There's 18,000 verses. Everyone is significant. Everyone gives another in-depth, multi-dimensional understanding of our situation in this world and how to get out of it. And how to understand life, see it correctly, don't misinterpret it. So, there's very interesting subjects. And you see, we have, I gave one of these to my wife today. She asked me for it. This is the full set of Bhagavatams. This is an incarnation of Krishna in the age of Kali. There's no difference between Krishna and Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, you should definitely have it in your house. Today we have a Walmart special. I bought this some years ago. I had to pay $360 for it. It's actually worth $3.6 billion. That's the real value of it, right? Even that's too low. But today, you can get it for $200, Walmart special. All right. But anyway, that's up to you. We'll continue tomorrow. Are there any questions anyone wants to ask? Yes.
One of our neighbors were asking me, is there any reference where Krishna says that I don't interfere in your free will?
I don't what?
Interfere in your free will.
Yeah. Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter. He says, Itite jnanam akyartam Guyad guyataram maya vimrisyaisad asesena yatachchasi tatakuru. 18th chapter, 63rd verse. Thus I have explained to you, O Arjuna, knowledge still more confidential. So confidential knowledge is, I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul. Next level of confidential knowledge, my soul is eternally subordinate to Krishna, and therefore I should engage in the service of Krishna. And third level of confidential knowledge, Krishna is attracted to you by sincere devotional service. Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji man namaskuru mam evaisisi satyam te partijanis priyosime. So if Krishna becomes your friend, like he became Arjuna's friend, you have no worries in life. That's the most confidential knowledge. So he says, now I've explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully, and then do what you wish to do. It doesn't interfere with your freedom, your limited free will. You can't will that the sun doesn't come up tomorrow. It won't succeed. But you can will to become Krishna's devotee, and that becoming Krishna's devotee is not regulated by the laws of karma. You can be the worst person in the world with the worst karma. If you decide to surrender to Krishna, all that karma is stopped, and you can surrender, because it's not regulated by the laws of karma. That's the one thing that's not under the laws of karma. So therefore, when Vibhishan came to Ram and fell at his feet, even though he was Ravana's brother, even though he has a Rakshasa body, he accepted him. Because it's not regulated by the laws of karma. So this verse establishes free will. Yatachasi tatakuru. Now, Arjuna, you do whatever you wish to do. I explained to you, but I'm not forcing you. You do whatever you want to do. Okay? 18th chapter, 63rd verse. Any other questions? Okay, then thank you very much. All glories to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We're just skipping around. That's all nectar. Anywhere you touch, it's like gold, right? Anywhere you look at it, it's valuable. It's Bhagavatam. Anywhere you touch it, it's full of nectar. You know? But people don't realize it. This is the real treasure in life, is hearing, understanding Bhagavatam, explaining it, thinking about it, and you're liberated. It's actual liberation. Liberation is not getting wings and flying up to Swarga. That's not liberation. Liberation is hearing this regularly. It liberates you from all illusion for the benefit of yourself and for all humanity. That's why it's so important.